royal manor house of Sheen on the River Thames west of London a few days before, and had now, after almost 90 miles, reached the end of their journey. John of Dunchurch, Warwickshire, and Thomas Wheeler, known as Tom, spelled Thomme or Tom, Tom in modern spelling, both Carters, also approached Hawley on the 1st of January 1326. For the last 3 days, each man had driven a cart pulled by 5 horses and full of military equipment. 100 akitons, padded jerkins often worn under armour, 100 bassinets, a kind of helmet, and 100 pairs of gauntlets, all of which they were taking to the king. Agnes May, Anneis or Anneys, was the 14th century spelling of the name Agnes, was already in the village of Hawley with her husband Roger. The couple came from the area of Lindsay in Lincolnshire, and their friends called them Annet and Hogg. Agnes was a talented seamstress who in January 1325 had stitched shirts for the 2 most powerful men in the country, the king and his chamberlain. Her husband Roger Hogg May had worked in the royal household as a valet of King Edward II's chamber since 1324 or earlier. And on the 5th of December 1325, Edward broke with convention and hired Agnes as one of his chamber valets too. It was unheard of for any royal or noble household in the 14th century to hire a woman in such a position. Great households, even those headed by women, consisted entirely of men, except the ladies' personal attendants and the nurses of any small children. Rather remarkably, Edward seemingly was an early believer in the concept of equal pay for women, and Agnes May received the same wages as her husband and all the other 30 or more male valets of the royal chamber. 3 pence a day. In the 14th century, women were usually only paid half of what men received. On the 1st of January 1326, Agnes May received the wages of 7 shillings, 84 pence, she was owed for the first 28 days of her employment, and with her husband worked in the king's couche-chambre, or bedchamber. Valet is a difficult word to translate, and in the 14th century had many different meanings, but in this context basically meant a servant of low to middling rank. King Edward was halfway through the 19th year of his reign and was 41 years old. He spent the feast of the circumcision, the 1st of January 1326, in Hawley, and gave permission for 2 of his bondsmen, villeins or unfree tenants of the village, Thomas Wright and William son of Lawrence of Hoo, to take holy orders. The king appointed Sir Simon Ward as constable of the massive and important castle in Pontefract in distant Yorkshire on the 3rd of January, for the bridling of any malefactors in those parts, and rather insultingly declared that the inhabitants of the county of Lancashire were flighty and violent and in need of good leadership. He therefore ordered Simon Ward to choose the best man he could find to act as the county's under-sheriff. The Suffolk village of Hawley belonged by right to the Queen, Isabella of France, circa 1295 to 1358, but the king had confiscated all his wife's lands in September 1324, after he went to war against her brother, King Charles IV of France, reigned 1322 to 28, and Hawley was presently in Edward's own hands. The palfrey horse brought to Edward in Hawley by Richard Green and Wat Summery was a gift from his eldest and favourite niece, Eleanor, Lady Despenser. It was the custom for the king to give and receive gifts on the feast of the circumcision. Eleanor sent letters to her uncle too, though her messenger who carried them to him, John Mott, arrived in Suffolk 2 days before Richard, Wat, and the dapple grey palfrey. Lady Despenser, born in October 1292, and now 33 years old, just 8 years younger than her uncle.